Hey you guys, so I have a couple things I need to clear up with you really quick before we get started because they're bothering me and they might bother you. This is a bruise. These are bruises from CrossFit. I don't know if you've ever done CrossFit before, but there's a lot of movements you do where you're catching heavy weighted barbells kind of like on your chesticle area. So I got some bruises from CrossFit. So that's what is going on here. So anyway, it is not much of a secret here on my channel that in 2019 I have declared a no buy. And today we are talking about products that you can probably stop buying. Now, this video isn't necessarily drawn to newbies in the beauty community. Like if you've never bought something, you probably can't stop buying it. But it also, I think, would be good information to have if you are a newbie because this might deter you from stocking up on things that essentially, after a while, and especially now, are kind of the same over and over. So whether you are balls deep in a myriad of the same shit, different toilet kind of makeup collection, or you're just getting started, this video is definitely going to help you in some way. But before we get started, make sure that you click like and subscribe on this video. Check the down bar for links to all my social media platforms. Anyway, let's just get started. So there are 6 different types of products that I feel like we keep seeing either a consistent output of or products that even if there isn't a lot of them on the market, they're basically identical. And the first one I want to talk about is highlighters. Now, highlighters are not what they once were. And let me explain. There was a time when highlighters were not as easy to come by. They were not as consistently released as they are now, and they didn't come in as many forms as they come in now. You have liquid highlighters, you have cream highlighters, you have body highlighters, you even have setting sprays that have highlighter in them now. Like those are a thing. You got your limited edition ones, you got the cult status ones, you got duochrome ones, you got color shifting ones, you have highlighter palettes, and in like 2017, I think it was 2017, Jeffree Star released a black highlighter. Hats off, because honestly, like you might as well cash in when everybody's buying this stuff. I feel like highlighter is a product that for a long time wasn't super, there just wasn't a lot of it. I know that might be hard for you to believe if you're especially young or just not getting into makeup, but there was a time when I think I owned maybe 4, and that was because that's really all there was. And now you can't swing a tit in any direction without running into like 50 new ones. When I first started doing makeup and kind of getting really serious about it, I can only think of about 4, maybe 5 that were out there. And it was like Mary Luminizer by The Balm, MAC Soft and Gentle, NARS Albatross, and then I think there was like a Laura Mercier one in there somewhere. But as a whole, it wasn't like this. This would have been around the 2011 and 2013 timeframe that it was like extra slim pickings, and it slowly kind of evolved, but it really became the monster that it is today, I believe, with Champagne Pop in 2015. And did you know that in 2015, July of 2015, when Champagne Pop was released, it sold 25,000 units in 20 minutes. Once again, there were highlighters, people were highlighting, but I don't think that until that massive success with Champagne Pop happened, other brands kind of started to realize how massive the market was for this particular type of product. And then I honestly feel like from then on out, it's just been highlighter sandwich everywhere you go, all day, every day. People are pushing highlighters. They come out with new, anytime a brand launches a collection or a limited edition release, highlighters are in there. That's like, seems like kind of an easy thing to throw together, and people keep buying them. It's probably like the one single like face product I can think of that people get excited about. Like bronzers come out, people might kind of care. Blushes come out, people might kind of care. But you could put out a highlighter, one single highlighter, and people will lose their mind over it in a way that they won't do about anything else. I mean, like the ones that really stick out in my head of recent was the Anastasia and Amrezi one. That was just one highlighter, one product. It wasn't a collection. It wasn't a bunch of different types of highlighter or different shades. It was one highlighter, and it did extremely well. The Rihanna How Many Carats Diamond Bomb thing, that one too, another very good example of one product, one highlighter that came out. I was just saying, like, highlighters are just different. It's not like one lipstick comes out and everybody buys it. It's just highlighters. I have about 20 highlighters now, and that is still after a pretty hefty makeup purge. And I probably use a handful of them. My favorite highlighter that I've ever used, that I use consistently, is like a $5 highlighter. It's from Catrice Cosmetics. It's called Champagne Campaign. I friggin' love it. But other than that, I don't know if I have any preferences towards them. I just kind of feel like they're one of those makeup products that are very much meant for like the experience of the consumer, if that makes any sense. Like it's like the packaging. It's like putting on the finishing touch of your makeup, because to the naked eye, no one's really gonna be able to tell what highlighter you are wearing, or could really make a huge differentiation from person to person that's wearing the exact same highlighter. Like there's not a whole lot of like huge differences. Now, obviously there are highlighters that wear better than others, that are smoother than others, that are glowier than others. But as a whole, for 20 days, I could wear one highlighter a day for 20 days and nobody would be able to tell the difference, I promise you. Because honestly, to me, highlighter's highlighter. And I just think it's one of those things. Get about 2 or 3 of them, call it a day and move on. You just don't need to keep buying them. Eyeshadow palettes are number 2 on the list of things you can probably stop buying. I made a video a few years ago all about eyeshadow palettes where I kind of broke down what I thought were the same like general types of eyeshadow palettes that get released, how to start getting ones that you'll actually use, the pros and cons of them. So if I don't get super into that, definitely check the down bar to get links to that video. But as a whole, eyeshadow palette and movie reboots are the 2 things in 2019 I am the most sick of. There are just only so many places you can go with eyeshadow palettes at this point. Everybody releases them. Once again, it's just like highlighters. Anytime a new collection comes out, every season we are seeing eyeshadow palettes. And take it from me, someone who even after, once again, can't stress this enough, condensed my collection down by probably half, I still have maybe 30 eyeshadow palettes, and I think I use like 3 of them regularly. Much like highlighters, there was a time when we did not have eyeshadow palettes in the like overabundant situation we have them in now. There was a time when single shadows were the way things were done. It's why brands like Makeup Geek kind of rose to prominence when they did and how they did, and that was because brands weren't, except for MAC, weren't really doing that. And on top of that, eyeshadow palettes, like I said, they were there, but typically the palettes were not a cohesive element. You had like Urban Decay, who did a lot of palettes. They have always done palettes, let's get real. They've always done like heavy shimmer palettes. You can't make a whole look with that typically. Or the palettes were just not, the performance just wasn't really there. So single shadows were the way things were done. Like that was the gig. Hello, MAC Soft Brown. Like I went through it. I still have all of my single shadows. And in the video that I'm referring to about eyeshadow palettes that I made a couple of years ago, I said you should probably just stick to single shadows. And in some ways, I still feel that way, but I don't think the market's gonna change anytime soon, and I don't think people are gonna go back to single shadows anytime soon. But eyeshadow palettes are just, the more you have of them, the less useful they become, because the more of them you have, the less of them you're going to use, obviously. If you have 5 eyeshadow palettes, like you've only got 2 eyes and 24 hours in a day, there's no way you're blowing through 5 eyeshadow palettes, even in the span of like a year. I think it would be almost impossible to do that. I kind of feel like similar to highlighters, had that one kind of like big moment that really opened the floodgates. I feel like eyeshadow palettes had the same thing in 2016 when the Modern Renaissance palette came out. We had been doing eyeshadow palettes before that. They had been around, but Modern Renaissance came out. The color story was so unique. It was such a special product. Everyone bought that damn palette, and I feel like that's kind of where everyone was trying to recreate the magic. And it hasn't really been done since, at least as far as I'm concerned. On the whole, I am currently working pretty much exclusively in and out of palettes. If you can't beat them, join them, I guess. But let me tell you, there are still disadvantages to it. The main disadvantage being, if you have a palette, especially one that you use consistently, you will inevitably have to replace that palette before it is depleted in its entirety. What I mean by that is, I love the Kristen Dominique Cosmetics. Is that what, sorry girl, can't remember. Her palette, the Latte palette, it's been my favorite palette since last year. It's very simple, but the colors are beautiful. They perform amazing, and the way they work together is so like no muss, no fuss, just get it done. Gorgeous eye look, love it. But when one of those eyeshadows like either runs out or breaks, I probably will go get another one because I like the palette for like a particular set of colors. So if one of them breaks or runs out, what is my option? I have to go buy another one. Another problem with palettes is you buy a palette, like a really good example of this for me is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. There are several shades in that palette that I do not like, or I just don't see myself using, and now I own the whole palette, and there are multiple shades in it that will never get used, but I paid for all of them. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Lots of palettes. You don't need them all. Number 3 type of product you can probably stop buying is limited edition products. Now, I probably should have prefaced this video with this. I don't know really what makeup is out there anymore. I mentioned it 100 times. I've unfollowed tons of makeup accounts, tons of Instagrammers and YouTubers. I'm very selective of the content that I'm consuming as it pertains to beauty products. So I don't know for sure if what I'm about to say is true. But I think limited edition, like that buzzword, is used a lot less frequently than it once was. I feel like 2 years ago or so, we really kind of saw that word being thrown around to describe damn near every makeup release that came out, whether it was because the product itself actually was limited edition, or if it was because they were trying to like jack up the interest in that product by making it seem like get it now or get it never. Like, I don't think it's happening as much as it used to, but I'm kind of living in a bubble. If I'm wrong, let me know. Anyway, limited edition as a whole to me is bullshit. To break it down in the most concise way I know how to, I will say, number 1, why would you want to be put in a situation where there is a makeup product that you love that once it's gone, you can never get it again? Now, obviously, brands discontinue products all the time for no apparent reason, so at any given time, there is a chance a product that you love will never come back and you'll never be able to replenish it. But to knowingly buy something that the brand itself is telling you, it's only going to be here for a little while. Like, what if that thing ends up being your favorite thing in the whole effing world? I don't know. I like it. I just would rather never have it than have it and have to lose it. I'm also not the kind of person who's like, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Like, nah, I would rather just have the last 18 months of my life back, please. That's just me. Another aspect to limited edition that I think some people might be into, but I think those people are serial killers, and I'll tell you why. Lots of people are into collecting things. There's lots of things to collect. There are people who collect stamps or who collect superhero memorabilia, or people who collect vinyl records, and maybe, just maybe, there are limited edition or limited release versions of said collectible item that people who are really in the game are gonna like scramble to get their hands on. But that thing that they bought is just for ornamental purposes. Makeup is meant to be functional, and there are people who buy makeup as a collector's item. They exist. Now, for the rest of us who do not have a crawl space full of skin sombreros, we do not need to be buying limited edition stuff, because it's just showing companies that they can keep pulling this massive dump of product all the time and not really have to put any skin on the table because it's limited edition. Like, they don't have to worry about it being a product that people will repurchase. They can just kind of throw something out, put friggin' Fraggle Rock on it, and people will buy it because it's limited edition and there's some sort of iconic signifier that goes along with it. I don't like limited edition, if you can't tell. I just think it's garbage. And if you're having a problem resisting the urge to buy makeup, pretty sure if you just make a rule for yourself not to buy limited edition makeup anymore, you'll be shocked how much less you buy. Shocked. The next thing you can probably stop buying are brush sets. Not brushes, brush sets, and I'll tell you why. Unless you are working in the makeup industry in some sort of professional capacity, you are realistically only ever going to need to use so many brushes. You're not in a situation where you're needing to keep a stock up so you don't have to constantly be cleaning them for client work, or if you're not in a situation where you're creating elaborate, ornate makeup looks even on yourself regularly, then you just don't need that many. I probably could go in my brush collection right now and pull out like a handful of them and only ever use those again if it really came down to it. I, even myself, do not use that many. I have a couple of videos about eye brushes in particular and face brushes, how to use them, what they're good for. Check the link down below, and they are all there for your benefit. But in the broader sense of the word, brush sets are a no for me. I have bought brush sets recently. I think I've bought many of them actually, but I can tell you the brushes that I've actually bought individually by themselves are typically the ones that I use the most, and I'll tell you why. When I first got into makeup, I always start stories that way, don't I? Many moons ago, when I first got into makeup, I bought brush rolls just like everybody else because it's a good way to figure out what you like, what you need, what you don't need, all of those things. But I will tell you, after that first initial investment of buying a brush roll, I would have probably been in very good shape just to buy a few choice ones that were like really geared towards specific types of needs I have, if that makes any sense. Now the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe brush roll, I just really like it. I use a lot of those brushes. Is it massive? Yeah, I bought the big one. So there are tons and tons of repeat brushes, and there are tons of brushes I don't use. I've also bought a Wayne Goss brush set before. I bought the Face collection. It was $250 for 6 brushes. And let me tell you something, Wayne Goss brushes are they're so good. They're so soft. I can't even explain it. Like, everyone should go try to use a brush at least once or twice in their life of that caliber. You will turn your nose up at everything else after. But anyway, as good as they are, as much as I love them, I still paid $250 for a brush set that I don't use all the time. And I never, even when I first bought it, used all of the brushes in the collection. So sure, companies will try to tell you like, oh, if you buy the brush set, you'll save money. But like, in what world does spending money saving you money? It doesn't, sorry. You are just gonna probably fare better if you have maybe your initial collection of brushes that you get that's in a set. It's a good initial investment, okay? I do think that's a good idea. But once you've done that, figure out where the gaps are. Figure out what you need a better version of. As far as I'm concerned, the brushes that I have bought individually that I got the most use out of were eye brushes, because I have smaller, downturned, almond shaped, whatever you want to call it. My eyes are not the easiest to do eye makeup on. And honestly, the reason I got good at it was because I figured out the brushes and the size of brushes that I needed. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of brushes that I've bought, whether in kits, collections, or individual, that are irreplaceable. It's usually some very specific eye brushes I bought on their own. And if I ever lost them, I would replace them. So brush rolls, brush collections, all that stuff, you probably don't need any more of them. The last thing that you can probably stop buying, a lot of people similar to highlighters are gonna feel personally attacked by Regina George when I say this, but setting sprays, you guys. Setting sprays, enough is enough. There was a time, much like highlighters and eyeshadow palettes, when setting sprays were not what they are today. There was MAC Fix Plus and there was Urban Decay All Nighter, and that's pretty much all I remember being for a very long time. And then everybody get a setting spray now. There's expensive ones, there's cheap ones, there's drugstore ones, there's high-end ones. There's a setting spray by this brand called Queen of Hungary, I think it's called. The setting spray is like $130 or something, banana sandwich like that. And I have yet to see anything, a review, anything that can explain to me the lunacy that goes into something like that. I don't feel, for the most part, that any one setting spray makes a crazy difference than the other one. I would say as a whole, might need two. Need one to make your makeup last longer, and you need one to add some like glow or hydration back to the skin. That's really all you need. Now, I've gone through phases where I've collected a lot of setting sprays, and the things that kind of make them different to me are not even things. There's really one thing that makes any of them any different to me is the nozzle, the pump. Some of those are like put together better than others, but as a whole, cannot tell a difference at the end of my makeup complexion, at the end of my makeup routine over one dewy setting spray versus another. I just think it's bull crap. I think Pixie at Target does a beautiful range of facial setting mist. They're more geared for like hydration. They work incredibly, incredibly well. Catrice Cosmetics has really good hydrating dewy skin mist. Morphe's continuous setting spray is actually really nice as well. The only one I kind of feel like you might as well spend the money on is Urban Decay All Nighter, because it really is the OG for a reason. It keeps your makeup in place forever and always. And overall, like a bottle of that, because you should not be using it every day, should last you a hot minute. So for me, setting sprays as a whole, I'm good. I'm good, fam. No thanks. Guys, that is the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave down below any products that you think we could probably pump the brakes on buying, help each other out, help me out. Maybe I'll overlook some things, but I really enjoy making these kind of like product roundup videos where we talk about things we love or things that we don't. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. And once again, please come hang out with me on Instagram. I am jacked up on coffee right now because I gotta go to the gym in like an hour. So please excuse the abundance of annoying energy. Anyway, hope you guys are having an amazing day. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.